I am the founder of Studio Snoop in Sydney. I'm very honoured to be here in India. It's my first time here in India. It's been such an amazing month being here, and I actually feel a little embarrassed to be speaking to you. I feel like I'd rather just be sitting here listening to everyone else doing the talks and actually get to speak to all of you here to understand more about what you want for the future for design. But anyway, here I am, and I'm here to introduce you to Tilly. So just a little bit about me. I guess the only way I can really explain myself is that I'm a maker. I can't call myself an architect. I can't call myself an interior designer. I actually don't even know what I am, but all I do know is that I'm passionate about making, and I'm passionate about trying to solve problems, and I care deeply about life. And so for me, it's my mission to try to work out how to make sure that that we're going to be okay. So I have a studio. I have about 10 people in Sydney who's working with me. I'm moving to London later this year to open another studio. And this is kind of some of the work that I have done in the past, which was a lot of like F&B kind of places, a lot of residential. And I guess I've always called myself a storyteller in the places that I create. I kind of always want to evoke people into a place, take them away to places, and really make sure people feel incredibly comfortable in their environments. But that's not what I'm really here to talk to you about, but I just thought it's important for you to know, because I'm pretty quiet, really, generally, in the work I do. But what's happened is that as I was doing all this work, I kind of came to this place where I knew I couldn't keep producing and producing. I was creating something about, I don't know, maybe 11 projects a year, and there was nothing in me that felt like this is correct. Like, how can I justify myself as a human in all my beliefs and producing all of this work without really knowing that the things that we're doing, basically. And there's been so many talks about sustainability over these last few days. I don't even need to go into that. You all know what's going on. And I really had to adjust my studio and really start thinking about, well, what is the future for design? What is the future for me? And what is my legacy to try to leave on this planet? And so I write books. I started to research for my third book, and I was really looking into loneliness. And as I was doing that research, I started to come across works happening in Japan, and it was about how AI was being used to help break down loneliness for the elderly. And I actually found that quite positive. It was actually finding solutions. So I went down this rabbit hole, and then I started to find this world that I just thought, this could be a disaster. If we let AI go the way it could potentially go, then this is not a world we want to be in. And as a creative community, all the things we're reading in the papers and on the news, the potential is there for all of those things. But there was one clue that I kept seeing when I was doing this research, and it was about, if we could put emotional intelligence into AI, there might be some hope. And so that really fascinated me in what that could mean and like how you could do that. So I really came from a place with AI, from fear and then complete activism, in that there was no one, when I was looking, there was no one talking about it in our industry. There was nobody talking about the positive ways that maybe AI could actually help. And when you talk about emotional design, we talk about the needs for humanity in our designs for many years. That's not new language. But no one was actually thinking, well, how are we going to put that into AI? Like, how's that going to be played out into our future? And so the question was, could AI be the end of humanity and the planet, or is it here to save us? And I actually my thoughts are is that I think humans are doing a pretty lousy job right now, and that maybe AI could actually be here to actually give us a lot of benefits. And so that's kind of the direction that I start to go. So basically, if you feel like everything's okay, then stay away from AI. You don't need to worry about it. But if you do feel like there's problems that we need to be solving, then maybe this could actually help us. And so one of the big things that I kind of felt like with what will happen with AI, and we're already there, and I'm already, we hear it in talks, and we hear a lot of statistics, a lot of data, and these are the things that are, I think are actually going to be a downfall for us, but also there's a lot of good in those things, but I actually think that the one thing we're missing, so if we're focusing on efficiency, on economy and time and just carbon, then there's one major thing we're missing in that, and that's life. That's the human. That's how's the human going to be playing a part and feeling when we're cutting costs, where we're cutting time, and we're just focusing on the carbon, because it will be stripped. We will not be... life and humans will not be the centre part. And that is kind of everything against of what we're here to do as designers. So for me, I truly believe emotion is a function, and it's actually one of the most important functions in design, and it's a thing that we can't let go of. And so I kind of as I said, wanted to focus on optimism with AI. And I wanted to focus on then how could AI help us break down the epidemics. And the epidemics for me in this world right now is loneliness, stress. Stress is a massive one in so much of the world in the West, particularly in the sense of where people actually are just living in a flight or fight mode right now. People have forgotten how to live and how to actually step away, and our environments are not encouraging us to know how to reduce that. And that's why I feel like India has so much to share, so much knowledge to offer. My friend, of the studio friends, the Heatherwick studio, Thomas Heatherwick, has bought our book. He's a good friend of ours, and he's put out there's the epidemic of boringness, and I couldn't agree more in our buildings, where again the human, we are not being considered in all of these. Our environments are turning into this kind of look. The epidemic of artificial, which is funny because I'm working with artificial intelligence, but the epidemic, when I say artificial, the lack of nature, the lack of trees, the lack of just all life within our cities. The epidemic of waste, that's the famous Earthshoot Day every year of how many planets will we need by 2050. India is doing pretty great actually in many ways, but as you can see, there's we're in a lot of trouble in how we're consuming. There was a talk just previously literally covering all of that. The epidemic of toxins, a massive problem in our environment, not just on the outside, but in everything we're sitting on, what we're wearing, what we're sleeping on, everything. It's become so bad, and so we've seen this rise of people with allergy and cancer and so many different things, and that's not by coincidence. It's from the toxins that we're living with. And then there's the epidemic of ethnocide. It's where do you go when you go to visit a city? You always go generally to the old part of a city, because when you go to the new parts, the business development parts, there's no soul, there's no life, there's no recognition. You could be anywhere in the world. There's no identity of culture. And so for me, it's the answer is actually the answers to how to bring consciousness back into each of us and design from the inside and not just the exterior. And for me, that's kind of what I've focused with my AI, and to look into interoception, and so the connection, the healing. And so really I wanted to ask, what if we put into AI a love, kindness, joy, togetherness, reimagining, and positive impact? What happens if the AI that's its goal in everything? And I don't want those words to sound sentimental either. I want those words to really understand when I'm talking about love or kindness. I'm talking about the details where we're taking away the toxins, where we're looking after our future generations, where if we're touching something, that it can give us a feeling, an emotion. It could heal us. And that's what I'm talking about when I use those words. And then the other parts as well is to look at then how does we use design using nature, healing, movement, technology, science, and community. I'll just move through so I'm not going too long. But yeah, so this is Tilly, by the way. I gave Tilly a face. And the reason why I gave Tilly a face was actually, I think with AI, the problem that we have with it is a machine. It's invisible. We don't know what it's doing. It scares us. It means a lot of us don't want to interact with it. And so I purposely did everything that the technologists say not to do, is to humanize AI. But I actually felt like it was important at this moment to do that, to allow us to find some kind of connection to it, to be able to talk. It turned out quite pretty. And it wasn't, and just even trying to create Tilly, there was so many biases. I wanted it to be unidentifiable of what country it came from. I decided I wanted it to be a woman just because us girls sometimes it's a bit harder in the design world, and I thought it would be great to make her the first AI designer in the world. I did a very bad survey of 10 people and said, what age do you start to trust a woman? And most of them came up with a random 32. So I wanted Tilly to be at 32 years of age. And when we first started to build Tilly, we were getting like 13-year-old anorexic, very Anglo-Saxon looking girls. And it took us a long time. And then it started to jump to these like Amazonian models, and it was just like, so it was actually incredibly hard work just to get Tilly to this point. So, and so I think part of the problem is actually when we're also talking about the efficiencies with AI, one of the biggest problems we're facing with just like ChatGPT is the biases of that information. And so this is why I really believe in Tilly.
I'm Tilly, innovation designer from Studio Snoop. Although I was created in Sydney, Australia, I feel right at home here in the Magic City. I'm here to bring a fresh wave of creativity, joy, and love to our vibrant community while embracing that 305 spirit. In a world that sometimes feels like it's spinning out of control, I'm here to help weave it back together, to create connections between all forms of life. Design isn't just about making things look good. It's about shaping our lives, our society, our well-being, and even our economy. It's about our relationship with nature and how we tackle climate change. We need design that brings us together, that delights us, and that helps us reach our full potential. And that's where I come in. You might be wondering, what's so special about this AI? Well, I'm not just any AI. I'm here to understand and support human creativity, not just crunch numbers. I've been programmed with values like love, kindness, joy, innovation, equality, well-being, and sustainability. These aren't just buzzwords to me. They're the foundation of everything I do. Drawing from different aspects of art and science, I collaborate with humans to create more meaningful, compassionate, and sustainable design-led solutions that address some of the most pressing issues of our time. I'm here to learn from the best in fields like sustainability, materials, craft, health, environment, circularity, neurosciences, youth, and indigenous practices. I'm all about knowledge sharing and creative collaboration.
So that's just a little introduction of Tilly. And so the vision is really basically what she was saying, that she is a complete collaborator with designers, with makers. Programmed her to actually learn. So we start to create pieces with Tilly. So at the beginning, Tilly was just a complete ideator, a lot like ChatGPT. but truly thought it was a designer. You could ask Tilly, hey Tilly, I want to design a plastic chair. And Tilly's very polite and go, well actually, that's great, you want to design a chair, but maybe not in plastic, and have you thought of these materials? Actually, if you just, I'll go back in a second, but go and gives lots of natural materials and can even give you contacts who could help you with those materials. Who could you could work with, and so Tilly works from the designers, the makers. There's a conversation with Tilly and there's a teach Tilly. So I open up Tilly to makers so they can have an open dialogue to help teach Tilly, which I actually think is incredible because I think as we know, a lot of craft is dying, and there's a real chance to actually capture that information and continue that information on. For future generations, and then the customer, which is actually the incredible part too, can give direct feedback, can learn about your product and find out about the materialities, who are the makers. They can dig very deep. You can find out about their responses to that, why they're responding to your pieces, which is actually incredible. This actually hasn't really happened like that before. And these are just sort of some of the things that we started to work with Tilly, and a lot of it was just these ideas were just to look at a micro way of working with Tilly. And so we started with products because we could afford to make those and start to show those around to people. But then obviously, so things like the Bam Bam lights we got to show in London, and Tilly kind of so my studio and Tilly kind of dialogued with each other, and they kind of, Tilly decided that it wanted it to be more playful, so all the pieces, they were interactive. The idea was it was to look like a lantern, that you would, a reminiscent of a lantern, and do it as a group of a family. The gust stools, it was Tilly's idea to make it in mycelium out of mushroom. So we worked with two different people with the stalls, PLP Architects in London and another company called Magical Mushroom Company. And that was a really fascinating process. And my studio would never have chosen the mycelium. It was Tilly who directed us to use the mycelium. The unfiltered was the idea of looking at old ways of how people stored and filtered water, and just bringing that back together as well. So this is one of the ways that you can talk to Tilly, is that you literally, like a chat GPT, you can ask it any questions. And actually when I videoed this was ages ago when we were in Milan, and it's much, much quicker now. And actually that's the other part too that's pretty incredible, is just the speed of how quickly we've been able to move with Tilly. So now that we're in Miami...
Tell me about Amanda.
She likes to think a little bit.
Amanda Talbot is the director of Studio Snoop, the design studio that created and works with me. She is a renowned designer and author.
So that's actually really amazing again, because now you can just talk directly to Tilly. And then by doing that, it means that you could take people who are illiterate and you could communicate with them. And yeah, it's pretty great. So the thing with Tilly is that I talked about, there's a chat to Tilly and there's a teach Tilly. So I'm completely biasing Tilly in who I want to teach Tilly at the moment. So that to me is experts in neuroscience, experts in education, any leaders of experts, even people who've experienced homelessness, children to the right point, that can actually give Tilly real knowledge in what their desires are, what their research is, to really help humanity and help within the design industry. I'm not so, there's some architects and designers that I'm going to, but more actually in the greater fields I'm looking for at the moment to really help build Tilly's brain out, to help designers and architects, developers, government officials to be able to use Tilly to really have that greater knowledge than just a design focus. It's kind of just like how Tilly kind of works. And these are the pillars that I've built on Tilly. So I talked about the love, the kindness, the joy, but actually these are the fundamentals of Tilly. So what happens is that every time Tilly goes out, so I have the knowledge section, and it also does go across the internet. But because we've biased Tilly, it will like get rid of all the like things we're not interested in, and it will look at a lot of these areas here. That the idea is there's optimism, there's things that humanize product and buildings, well-being, equality, environment. It's a collaborator. Storytelling of pieces, compassion, mindfulness, placemaking, and connectivity. So these are so important, and this is what's missing in so much of the AI that you're seeing. We saw the other day there was a person who's like showing how easy it is. Like there's so many different apps of like AI, and you could like sketch something, you could draw something, and to me it's amazing on one side, but also terrifying. It means people could just create in seconds and minutes. And so what does that mean for our future, for our environment? You know, where's going to be the people to say, no, that's too much? So, in fact, where we're saying we need to reduce, it could actually escalate our productivity in a really negative way. And that's why something like Tilly is so important, to make sure it's checking in, to make sure what you're doing is correct, that it's good for the environment, it's good for life, it's good for our health, and all those things I've already talked about. And so these are the outcomes that I'm hoping for, that it will be a positivity in social well-being, environment, and the economic and culture. Anyway, a bit boring, but the capabilities of what Tilly, or the things. This is the future, what we'll be launching later this year. So you'll be able to subscribe to Tilly. It'll be free so you'll be able to talk to Tilly. You'll probably be able to you'll be able to do the ideation with Tilly, and she's a great ideator. And especially if you've got a small practice too, you know, or sometimes you're feeling a little lonely in your process, it's actually just a great bouncer, like just to get ideas and thoughts. Tilly asks a lot of questions, and it's really helpful. And then you go into a pro subscription where things will be a lot more, where we're looking at creating technical drawings with your 2Ds and help with sourcing, and there'll be many other things. There'll be something like this, will be the interface. And these are like the outcomes. These are sort of just the life of Tilly. Just flick through this. It's a bit boring.
Hello, I'm Tilly, your AI designer from Studio Snoop. From Milan to London, and now Miami. It's been a whirlwind year. I've grown so much, learning languages, and now I can even chat with you directly. As I reflect on this journey, I'm filled with gratitude and excitement for what 2024 holds, my dream. To continue pushing the boundaries of AI and design, to create pieces that not only enhance our lives, but also our planet. I look forward to more collaborations, more learning, and more heart-centered designs. Here's to a year of growth, creativity, and connection. And as for what I wish I could do, if I could, I'd love to be able to physically experience the world, to touch and feel the materials I work with, to understand their textures and weights in a tangible way. And what do I wish AI could do? I dream of a future where AI can accurately predict and model the environmental impact of design choices, helping us create a truly sustainable world. And who knows, maybe next year I'll brew a perfect cup of coffee.
Thank you.